Hey folks, so I kind of wanted to give a little bit of an explanation for a post I made because some people got super offended by it, apparently, and I'd gotten private messages and I'd gotten a couple of comments, and I got a few blocks, as a matter of fact. So that's funny. But you're probably wondering why all of a sudden I'm posting videos, and it's because obviously you guys are on my Facebook feed, you guys know me, but there are some folks who don't, and sometimes you say something via text and people, there are miscommunications. Tone, body language are a large part of communication that's lost through text, and I think it's why there tends to be a lot of very heated debate online. I think it's because we're lacking that element of communication. So here it is, a video, and I'm going to get to it. I made a post where I changed my profile picture. Actually, it wasn't a post, but I changed my profile picture to a yellow square. Later on, I made a post saying that it was a joke, that I was doing it for the laughs, and people got mad about that. And so, what I'm trying to explain here is that people, folks who have messaged me and who've commented, and as a matter of fact, someone who spoke to me in person about it, were under the impression that I was mocking the situation. First of all, oh, and by the way, I was already, accused of racism, which is funny. First of all, by the woke left-wing rules, since I'm Asian, I'm allowed to make Asian jokes. That's the rule. They made it, so, don't rob me of that. But that being said, this isn't really a joke. It wasn't really a joke about Asians. It was a joke about the wokesters. It was a joke about these virtue signaling people who put these squares up and they tell you they're allies. And look, some of these folks, I live here in LA, people, there are a lot of people who seem to be very monolithic in their social and political ideology. And, one of the things that I talked to many people about before is the nature of affirmative action. And I know I sound like I'm going on a tangent, but this is going somewhere. But I was telling about the nature of affirmative action and how, in order to appease certain groups of people, you end up robbing other groups of people of things that they earned. And that in particular applies to the situation with the universities. I think the lawsuit's still ongoing. I'm not quite sure what the status of that is, but it's been quite a few years. People, Asian folks who tend to score higher were effectively being bumped down in order to bring in other people of other ethnic groups. And so then it becomes a question of, is it not racist to judge people based on the color of the skin as opposed to their merit? And are you not robbing certain people? And is that not, in effect, doing a disservice to people of certain ethnic groups? And this applied particularly to Asians. And I talked to people about this and the problem with affirmative action before it was even a lawsuit. And, folks, well, you got to right these wrongs, and, certain people, have certain backgrounds. And I totally get that. But at the same time, you're still punishing someone from the current generation. By the way, Asian folks who, most of whom are either immigrants or sons and daughters of immigrants, you're punishing them for the something that the forefathers of another ethnic group did, which is insanity to me. So I tried explaining this to people and they didn't quite get it. I was totally wrong until it became news, until CNN said that this was bad. Suddenly, everyone gets their new programming and, oh, wow, it's bad, this is terrible. These same people, a lot of these same people are talking about how they're allies and all the Asian, and, some of these folks, by the way, I've heard say some pretty racist things about Asians, and now they're allies. So effectively, I was mocking these people, these virtue signalers who I don't believe have any real morals. I don't believe they really necessarily care. Some of them do, not a hashtag, not all. Some of them do, but there are a critical mass of these people who I've interacted with here in Los Angeles and on Facebook who clearly don't. And, I just want to say to, those of you, other Asian folk who saw the post and were hurt by that, it was not directed at you. As a matter of fact, what I really want to share with you guys is that you have to recognize that a lot of these people, they're not your friend, and they're not trying to help you. They're either Yeah, some of them are, again, but there's a lot of them who just want to look virtuous. They just want to look like, well, I'm the good guy, and I'm with, such and such, and I'm with this cause and with that cause. And, we live in a time where people can just, talk about what they think they're about, and suddenly that makes them good. And very few people seem to be actually willing to do things. That's another conversation for another day. But then there's another element of these types of people who I think, it's a little bit more insidious. And that is, there are folks who are using, your frustrations, whatever they may be, for their own political gains. And I hate to bring it here, dude. I hate to, like, I hate to bring it here, and people are going to get mad, but, dude, look at what Joe Biden did. Harris and Biden used BLM, the BLM movement, as a means to build upon their campaign. And as soon as they get into office, they kick those guys to the curb. And by the way, Antifa, now, I'm not going to get started on Antifa, but Kamala Harris and various other people were involved in bailout funds for members of Antifa who had been arrested for rioting. And, after these guys got elected, suddenly Antifa starts getting thrown under the bus. You see them get thrown under the bus in the mainstream news. Suddenly some people are talking about them being the bad guys. Suddenly you have Democratic governors like the one in Portland who, all of a sudden he's deciding he's going to start putting them up in jail. And it just, these are very different situations. But at the end of the day, the point I'm trying to make is that some of these folks, they're using you, man. And the other thing is that we have to be careful not to fall into the victim mentality. A lot of us, us, I shouldn't say that. I freaking hate that tribal. But a lot of those of us who are children of Asian immigrants, especially Southeast Asia, where my family is from, our families, they came from harsh conditions, man. And they fled, where they were from. And for some of them, it was very difficult to come here to the first world, and in particular here, where I am in America, to make better lives for themselves and for their offspring, for their kids, for, you guys and me. And it'd be a huge insult to them, to these people, our parents, our grandparents, our families who decided to fight like hell to make a better life for themselves. It'd be such an insult for us to just sit down and suddenly become victims and ask for the approval of white liberals. Like, please, guys, acknowledge me. No, they didn't. They didn't do that. They went and they busted their ass. And so, guys, just don't fall into this victimhood mentality. Because, by the way, I used to have kind of a victimhood mentality, and you know where it got me? I was living in a tent for about a year. So, it things happen that are out of your control, and that's the reality, But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't make things your responsibility. And that doesn't necessarily mean I'm saying everything's your fault. Yeah, dude, there are racists, there are bad people out there. Sometimes we get politicians in office that we don't like, but when you make things your responsibility, meaning that they're not your fault, you're responsible for the choices that you make as these things happen. And that's really the best you can do. And, whining about feeling oppressed and all this crap, it's not going to do you any good. And, I know what it feels like to be held down. I really do. But this doesn't have to be like that. So anyway, hope you guys take that positively, because I'm not meaning to put anyone down here. Take care, folks.